hearing. All right, we have a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll second it.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the agenda. All in favor? Aye. Aye. Same sign. Anybody opposed, same sign. Motion passes. All right. I want to welcome all the visitors. We are actually going to go into the public hearing. And this would be a time where if you have any questions, I understand we have some folks here representing the committee. So this would be an opportunity if anybody has questions. To comment on the school calendar at this time. For sure. If there are no comments, we'll close it down here.
Can I do a blue card?
I do have a quick question, Jason. I noticed not a lot of snow days built into the upcoming calendar, other than at the end of the year. I've heard of some local districts, especially this year, we've had several, that are adding time to the beginning and the end of the school day rather than necessarily extending the school year. Is that something we've ever considered? What does that entail? Is that more of like an emergency action?
I'll turn that over to you or the committee.
When I do my report, I will add in a comment about the current school calendar. And then regarding anything like that on next year's calendar, I think possibly the representatives are gonna talk to you about where the snow days are. So I'm confident that you'll hear a response to that as we go.
Okay, thank you.
Any other comments or more questions about the school calendar? Can we go on a public hearing?
Close it at 6:03.
Okay. All right. Again, I want to welcome the visitors and appreciate you coming in. We do have a couple blue cards. I just want to remind everybody that's 5-minute limit. Harley will keep tabs on the clock. Bethany, did you have a comment?
Yes, I just wanted to comment on the superintendent search process. First and foremost, I want to thank the board. I know that took a lot of extra time. You made sacrifices on behalf of your family to be here, to put in all the extra meetings, meeting with the consultant firm, and I just want to say thank you. I also appreciate being able to be involved in that process, and change is hard, so I just appreciate all the thought, time, and professionalism you put into that. I do just have one question, and I can send this via email as well. I would like an opportunity to give the hiring firm, the consultant that we worked with, some feedback on the process. Is that something they've given you any mechanism for us that participated in that to be able to give them any feedback? If not, if you could just hand me a contact, I'd be happy to reach out. It doesn't have to be anonymous, so.
Yeah, we can get that contact to Bethany.
Yep, and I shared that with you guys all today, so feel free to pass on. It's a survey, Google survey.
Okay, I haven't seen it yet. Okay, perfect.
All right, thank you.
Dan?
Stole my thunder, Like Bethany, I wanted to thank you guys. I know you guys did a lot more than the rest of us that were involved. A lot more time and dedication and like you said, away from your family, so thank you very much for that. And also thank you for letting me be involved. One thing I would suggest is, how do you pronounce his last name? Diebold? Diebold.
Correct.
And it's Will Diebold. So he handed you, all of us that were there, his first year that he's gonna be there. And so I would highly recommend that you hold his feet to the fire on that, because that's a good metric for you guys to be able to grade and kind of judge if he's doing a good job. Because if he hands you something that he can't even hold himself accountable for, that kind of shows you maybe he might not be up to something. I fully expect he'll be perfectly fine, but he handed you what he wants to do in the first year. I would hold him accountable to that. Secondly, policies. I remember, I want to say it was back in November. I know we started to get into policies, but then we had to start looking for a new superintendent. We got some curveballs on the building, so it kind of went down by the wayside. Back then I suggested, hey, I and other members of the community are willing to step up and help with policies, even if it's some little subcommittee. I don't know if you guys have given much more thought about that, but policies is still something that I know that as a community, we wanted to address and kind of continue to fix. So, if that hasn't been on your radar, I would ask maybe you guys think about that.
Did you want to speak to that?
I think you can speak to that.
Okay, Danny did have the policies, and we were gonna continue that process, but I had asked her to remove that from the agenda to give the new person, at that time, we didn't know it was Will, but we were gonna give that new person an opportunity.
To be a part of that.
Exactly.
And I understand that, and I don't know if, you know, he doesn't start until July, I don't know, so.
Yeah, no, it's definitely on our radar, and that's one of the first, you know, work sessions we probably have.
Okay.
So, is that it, guys? All right, perfect. Thank you very much. How about board reports? Denise?
Yes, so I have visuals, you don't have to look at me. And these are just some things that I've made up. And I don't know if you get an opportunity to ever actually look at the monthly menus. I got a couple copies of those. Do you want your?
Sure.
I'll get to kind of the menu piece a little more specifically, but really to start, this year has been a great year of celebrations for the child nutrition program. I'll go into detail a little bit more about each one of those, but I think probably my biggest celebration was the distribution of a grant at the beginning of the year that enabled us to purchase local produce and protein from vendors in Iowa. And part of that process was being partnered with Field to Family, which is in Iowa City. They're a nonprofit organization, and they've really been monumental in coordinating our efforts with farmers, bringing the product into their warehouse and then delivering that to us free of charge. So that has really been a fabulous project this year. I'm hoping that will continue. We are able to purchase from them outside of the grant money. So that's getting close to being used up and looking at opportunities to expand next year even more. So really, and this is kind of why I gave the menu, I try to use the menu as a bit of a marketing tool, just to really share with the community things that we're doing, the local products that we're bringing in, and where they're coming from. We've had a wide range of different products and just great, the students have received them wonderfully. Some of the signage that I put out are things that we do to promote that on a daily basis, so they kind of know what's going on and where their food is coming from. That has been just a really fun project. You can see some of the items there. We have gotten different dairy items from Waukon and Hawkeye Dairies. We've had a great fun time doing some taste testing with students, and they compared some cheese curds and string cheese and things like that, just to kind of see what their preferences are. One challenge to this, unfortunately, is the cost. Obviously, supporting local farmers is first and foremost one of our greatest goals, but we are also a nonprofit organization, so we have to look at the cost of those. I'm really hoping there's some grants that are kind of in the works, so we'd be applying for those again next year to hopefully continue these efforts in mass form.
So you wouldn't be able to provide those without the grants?
No, we can. We
Okay.
absolutely can. It may have to be on a little more limited basis. For instance, a 10-pound bag of cheese curds is $80. To be able to serve those to all students, we need 3 cases. So, and that's not even every student taking one. That kind of gives you an idea of the volume and the cost to those items.
And normally cheese curds wouldn't be something that you even offer, right?
No, that's not something that's even been available from our normal vendors. Another example, frozen yogurt, 48 cups is $75 for a case. We're using about 12 to 14 cases of that to serve students, so that cost is. When you're comparing to a frozen yogurt that I can get from my vendors, that's about $18 to $22 a case. That's a significant
Big
cost
difference.
difference.
So when you get that grant, is that a one-time grant, and then you have to reapply for it, or once you've gotten it, you can't get it again, or do you continue to just roll that over and keep applying?
This year was the first year that it was offered, and as of right now, I haven't seen any future plans for offering that again.
Gotcha.
There are some federal USDA grants that I have seen come across that'll be opening in like May and June to apply for some fresh produce. And something else that we've done, we do Taste Test Tuesdays, sample with students. We're celebrating coming out of COVID and our lockdown on product and our ability to get some new fun products and do some taste testing with students. We are really challenged with our sodium levels, so trying to find seasonings and sauces that interest kids and get them to come and eat with us, things that they're seeing when they're going out and buying food. Being able to bring those in the cafeteria has been a very pleasant surprise for them. This year, one of our favorite menus, one with our highest participation, we're doing like a taco nacho bar. They have different options for shells and chips, and we brought in a white queso and a guac, and they just think it's great. So that has been really fun to do this year. We've really been focusing on homemade items, mainly breakfast. We've really expanded our breakfast options. Our breakfast burrito, homemade breakfast burrito, is probably one of our most popular items. We have students out the door. We can only wrap those babies so fast. So, but they have really had, they've just been really excited about all of the homemade options that we've been having for them. Something as simple, I don't know if you were ever a Subway person when they used to have dill spread. I found a recipe for that. We made it, we offer it with subs, and it has been a great hit. So if we have leftover subs, we're really disappointed if we don't have any extra dill spread for them that day. This was something else that I brought back too. We started Throwback Thursdays. This month we did peanut butter pixies. We probably haven't had those on the menu for pre-COVID for sure. And that was fabulous. Next month we're doing our homemade caramel apple dip that we do with a cream cheese base. That was always something that was really popular for kids. So this has been a fun activity, and digging out those old recipes are handwritten in binders from 15 years ago. So this has been a fun project too. Just some participation rate facts. We're at 31%. That's K through 12 for breakfast. And then the lunch, middle school, and high school. High school, that percentage does look a little disappointing, but when I figure participation rates, I use our entire enrollment. So we have students that are out of the building that may not even be here for lunch. They're in different programs. So that's why that's kind of skewing that number, I feel like, a little bit. We have strong participation from our students and staff. So I think that's definitely something that we celebrate. Another huge celebration this year is our climbing fill rates from our vendors, our manufacturers. We struggled a lot last year just getting food in the door, just getting products. I would order a product, and we wouldn't know until that morning that we weren't getting it. It was really frustrating. There was a lot of time spent on making adjustments or me running to the warehouse to get a different product or something. So in conjunction with putting my orders in 2 to 3 weeks in advance now and working more closely with those vendors and manufacturers, we've definitely been able to nix that issue with menu adjustments. We're also seeing greater quality with our produce that's coming in the door. So I just emailed our vendor and celebrated with them and thanked them for working hard and turning that around. That was a pretty frustrating time for those 2 years. Food scrap project. Mr. Flannery knows a little bit about this. We partnered with a student group to reduce the fresh produce food waste in the kitchen. This is a benefit in 2 ways. Some of those items are not going in the dumpsters. Obviously, we do like fresh pineapple and melons and things like that, even though we have commercial disposals, it's really tough on them. So we've been able to kind of save our equipment and reduce the waste that's going in. So we have a pickup twice a week. The students put out a sign up and community members sign up and coordinate a pickup. So that's been a fun thing to do with the student group.
Chicken's been loving it.
Good. Yes. Few challenges, really, like I said, it's been a year of celebrations. Coming off of 2 years of free meals for everyone, we are seeing an increase in negative account balances. Just continuing to work with families, make sure they're aware of programs that are available and doing everything I can to try to get them to fill out that paperwork or make sure that we have communication on the same page. Varying participation numbers, and you might think this is silly, and I put it up there, and I took it down and I put it back up a couple different times, but if you think about, okay, you're making stuff for your family and you're making 6 meals, and all of a sudden you have 60 show up. We deal with this every single day. Even though we run menu cycles and we have production records and we know what we served the last time, we're always kind of on that roller coaster of where our numbers are. And this is a celebration with my staff because they have really gotten good at thinking ahead, forecasting these numbers, just making sure we have everything, prepping ahead, making sure that we have a backup plan if we need to. And the last challenge is mine. There will be a 10% decrease in the sodium allowance for school lunches next year. We are already low. The challenge with that is manufacturers simply don't have the products to meet those guidelines currently. They're scrambling. It generally takes 18 months to reformulate a product. So I know manufacturers are scrambling to try to come up with some available products for us. And that's generally, we serve a lot of fresh fruits and vegetables. We don't add any sodium to anything. We have sodium-free seasonings, but it's a real, like our main entree items. You think of a piece of pizza and we're, blowing that target with just one menu item. So it'll be interesting to see what kind of options they come up with.
That's a 10% decrease in sodium for every meal, for every lunch.
Yes. The nutrient analysis takes place over a 5-day cycle, so it would be an average for 5 days.
Who's directing that?
The USDA.
USDA
It's
is.
coming from the USDA, and this is only target 1, they're target 2 and 3 in the future.
Huh.
You're tired of me talking, guys? All right, some goals. So this is kind of exciting. We purchased some new menu planning and nutrient analysis software. Next year will be a full administrative review for the child nutrition program. After comparing multiple companies and abilities, we went with Healthy Pro. Another reason that I gave you a menu is because one of my goals in using Healthy Pro is that they provide some menu templates, and so I can kind of jazz up my menu a little bit. They also offer an app, a live app that we can use. Just always trying to increase that parent communication, menu change alerts or anything like that. Working with Grant Wood to hopefully spice up the cafeteria walls a little bit, looking at some wraps and things like that. I've been really trying to distribute some field to family resources to teachers to coordinate some school trips. We can have farmers come in, but really to make that connection with the students of where their food is coming from. So yes, we're serving it to them, and yes, I'm showing pictures and we're really marketing that, but putting a face to the farmer, I think would be a really great goal for us. More scratch recipes and just keep celebrating our amazing staff.
Any questions for Denise? Thank you.
Yeah. Do you guys want to keep
That's really
those?
good.
Do you
Yeah.
want to keep those?
That the thing that you've added in there with the local food stuff on the menu, I think that's a great idea. It gives people a chance to see it. appreciate it, so.
Thank you.
Fine hearts.
Nice job, Denise.
Thank you.
Emily's gonna go first.
My name is Emily LeClaire. I'm elementary music here at Alburnett. I thought of 3 new things that I've really been trying to update in my room and just looking forward to continuing working on moving forward. I only have 7 weeks left of this year, so I'm trying to fit in as much as I can before then, and then I'll continue more next year. Since we updated you last time, the elementary room acquired a brand new set of ORF instruments. So thank you to those of you that helped us make that purchase possible. So they're all mallet instruments, including metallophones, xylophones, glockenspiels, and the kids have loved them. And I've really been using them this year as a curriculum for my 4th and 5th grade. I don't have a set curriculum for them. So we've been learning more about note reading and mallet technique, which is also kind of fun because with Mr. Ayler's band kids at the 5th grade level, those band kids that are learning more percussion stuff with him have really brought some more fun to it, and they get really excited about it. And the kids that aren't playing percussion really get to enjoy it too. The second thing is during PLC time, Mr. Ayler shared that he has a new lesson book that he is working on with his lesson students. And Mr. Fagerston and I have been using some different aspects from those lesson books to teach, that benefit our classroom to teach recognition of pitch and the musical alphabet. The musical alphabet is really confusing to kids, only going from A to G instead of A to Z. And oftentimes we get to G and then we hear H, I, J, K, and it doesn't work that way. So his new lesson book helps with some of that and some awesome rhythm exercises that are repetitive for the kids so they pick up on those rhythms fast. And third, we have 2 concerts coming up, which is new for me here this year. In the past, we've just done an art show in conjunction with Mr. Drew's art classes. And we're still doing the art aspect of it, but we're splitting it into 2 concerts. And I'm rather excited, and so are the 3rd through 5th graders. We're gonna try a musical this year, a mini elementary musical. So the 5th graders are all over their speaking parts and solo auditions that are coming up. But it's been a lot of fun.
I'm Willa Sugar, elementary art. The last time this happened, I had just gotten hired, so this is kind of my first time doing this, which is kind of exciting. Just like Mrs. LeClaire just said, there are art shows coming up, so at both the concerts, students will have art up during, which is really exciting. I think the biggest celebration in the art room coming out of COVID is all the new materials that we can use now, like clay, for example. All K through 6th grade has done a clay project this year, which they're very, very excited about, because some of them have never even touched clay before or even heard of what it is. And I think that's really exciting. Also, Moxley and I have been working really hard to get our upper elementary and middle school aligned with some different techniques with different materials, so that they're better prepared for the high school classes that they'll be able to take, since that's kind of material based now, which Moxley will touch on probably. And yeah, it's just really exciting to get that all aligned and kind of get the ball rolling.
I'm Loxley Drawn.
Out of order.
Oh, you're just going to go.
We can go down the hall. Well, I'm Matt Ayler. I'm 5'12" band. So coming out of COVID, last school year saw the return of honor bands, and had students participate last year in 5, this year in 6. It's a total of 67 students selected for those various honor band opportunities, which I like to be proud of. This last fall saw the proper revival of our marching band, first time since 2015. Actually marching halftime, and that's only looking to continue in bigger and better ways next year. Like Emily mentioned, we are changing our 5th grade band method coming into this next fall. We've been using the same method. It's a solid method for quite some time, but there's a lot of advantages to be gained in this next move, and we've already made the purchases on that end. I've been diving deeper and deeper into the new materials to get familiar with it ahead of 5th grade recruitment in May. These summer lesson programs have been great and a success. Have helped lots of things across the program. And then as we look ahead into next year, there's lots of goals that, some of them from this year that have kind of had to be pushed back, like properly splitting our jazz band program into a high school and middle school jazz band, getting that high school jazz band to some jazz band competitions, and beginning to get some additional events on the calendar beyond all the ones we already do.
Joe Fagerston, got 6th through 12th grade choir. This year we were very fortunate to get some brand new risers that are much safer to take down and move and set up and stand on. They look a lot better too, so we're very grateful for that. Along with the improvement there in the middle school especially, as Mrs. LeClaire mentioned, we've worked pretty hard on getting some clearer stages of progression from the upper elementary especially and into middle school, and then middle school into the high school, so that by the time they're in high school choir they are well equipped with skills and knowledge to handle the demands that come in high school. 6th grade currently is meeting on a 3-day rotation. Every 6th grader is in choir, and it's divided into 3 smaller groups, which has had many advantages actually to allow more productive instructional time. 7th and 8th grade is still meeting every other day, and high school choir meets every day. A new thing that we've done this year for high school choir, and to my knowledge it's maybe the first time it's been done in this district ever, is we actually commissioned a composer to write a piece just for our choir. And that commission has been completed. We've begun work on it, and students have had one opportunity to talk with this composer. He was one of my professors down at Simpson College, who's worked on, as I've been working on my master's degree there in the summertime. And I met him there, we talked about it briefly, and then this year we aligned all the other pieces that needed to be aligned and got that done. It's a pretty unique opportunity for students to see that process and be able to talk to a composer. Why did you write it this way for us? And that's been really neat. We'll have some more opportunities to talk with him in the future. Looking ahead to next school year, we plan to have the musical in the fall again, and then a successor to Coffee House event in the spring, the details of which we are starting to work out now. I'm done now, you to finish.
Okay, again, I'm Waxley Drawn. I teach 7th through 12th grade art. So I'll kind of just start at middle school and then finish high school. So 7th and 8th grade art are in a 6-week rotation hex class. I'm seeing them less amounts than when I started. When I started here, I had 8th graders for a semester, and whew, that was a doozy. 6 weeks is a little bit more manageable, and it keeps their attention, they're engaged way more. I don't think they're losing anything by going from a semester to 6 weeks, so I was really, really scared about that at the beginning, and then we went to quarters, and 6 weeks has been really like a happy medium, I found. We're still able to accomplish roughly 5 projects, including clay. this year, both 7th and 8th grade, we paired up with the ag program so that kids are making planters in art. They're going through the whole process of building, firing the clay, glazing it, firing it again. And then in ag, they're planting, taking cuttings, and then transplanting, whatever you call it, putting it in the pot. So that's kind of a cool thing. Some students that are not into clay, or haven't had the best experience with not wanting to get messy in art, are getting into it because they get to like actually do something with the clay. So that's kind of a fun thing. This year we've also gained access to iPads, Apple Pencils, and Macs, which have been a huge hit across the board. Chromebooks are great, but they're not for creative minds, so to speak. There's only so much that you can do on a Chromebook, and I have kids that are creating amazing stuff. And I started doing a portrait project with the 7th grade, and they were able to complete it in like 2 days because they were just like hooked like that. So I'm really excited to see where that can go. With PTO, we paired up with them to buy light tablets for the K-12 art program, which is essentially like a lit up.
It's like an iPad, but a flashlight.
Yeah, that's how I would describe it. That's what but you can put your picture on it and enlarge it and stuff like that. And so for some students that struggle with drawing and stuff, or needs certain accommodations, it's really like bumped their confidence in that aspect. This year specifically, high school students have the ability to sign up for medium-specific classes such as ceramics and sculpture, drawing, mixed media, painting, photography, graphic design. Across the board, I have roughly 90 students taking high school art. When I started, there was 25 total. All of my classes are 20 or more students, and of the 90, 20 of them are taking more than one art class. I think this is super awesome, that by doing that by medium, we're comparable to like bigger schools like Kennedy and Linn-Mar, who have done the medium-based classes, and we're able to get way more engagement for the time that they're in the art room. Seniors still have the opportunity to take on and produce their own senior thesis in art. This is one of my favorite things that we've been doing. It kind of went a little off kilter during COVID. Last year it came back strong, and this year is just, it's really super cool things that they're looking at doing. The projects include showing mastery of medium, such as painting or drawing, but also what art is to them. So I have kids that are doing printmaking and wood burning, mixed media on photographs, creating clothing from recycled materials, digital art to create floor plans and room designs, as well as just really honing their skills and elevating their interest in fine art or art that's in museums and masters, and creating their own twist on that. So that's it. I'm done.
Thanks, guys.
Very informational. Thank you.
You're welcome to stick around, or you can bail, or
Thank you.
thanks for sharing. Who's up first?
Couple things tonight. Just wanted to give a special thanks to the PTO and our teachers. They took 350 kids to the movie last Monday as a reward. I stayed back just in case anything would happen here. I want to make sure. But so yeah, they were able to go see Puss in Boots. I think the kids had fun. There was a couple scary parts, and so I sent something out that said if kids didn't want to go, we could have some fun activities back. And I asked Miss Gakin if anybody got scared, and she said, "Yeah, your daughter." I don't care about that. The PTO also provides a Subway sandwich dinner to our teachers during conferences a few weeks ago, and so that's always, so both of those things are much appreciated. That partnership is much appreciated. So we'll be doing our ISASP testing beginning the 3rd week in April. So looking forward to that because we'll have a few years of data together for again, it seems like the theme of tonight is because of COVID, so I don't want to bring that up too much, but we'll have a couple years of data to really dive into once we get those back. So you can see our kids do, of course, which is important, but also, as a program where we maybe, where we don't necessarily match up, so we identify priority standards and then we do this testing. Do our kids do as well in those priority standards as we think they will? And so then, is that really our priority standard, or do we need to move to something else? So that'll give us an opportunity to do that, which as exciting as test data can be, that will be an exciting step for us to make sure that we're aligned correctly. And then lastly, we are starting to gear up, we'll identify staff that wants to work this summer and in our summer reading program is identify students that are in need of that service. Great program that helps students in need of support, maintain those skills they gain throughout this year and not really hit that summer slide. So they're starting next year in a big hole. So get geared up for that, and hopefully we have some folks that want to work in that, and we'll have some kids that need that service. So that's it for me. Questions?
I want to piggyback off of fine arts a little bit. If you were at the concert a couple weeks ago, just what our staff are doing with our students, it is sounding so much better every time, every concert. It is phenomenal. That was the best I've ever heard our band play, our choir sing. It was a really awesome concert. So they don't brag enough. So I'll do it for them, but phenomenal a couple weeks ago. And then my only other thing was ISASP, and again, I don't want to bring up that word either, but just the reason why I'm excited about this coming year, 2019 first year of the test, 2020 didn't take it, 2021 year coming back, I don't want to say made excuses, but it was a tough year coming back for everybody. So 2022 was the first really normal year we had our test data. What do you compare it to? So now 2023, next month in April we take the test. We now have 2022 and 23, 2 good years of what I can consider normal data. So we can really look at, there's no excuse on the table. We can look at from 2022 to this year, a full year, how do we do? And really we're gonna look in the mirror and decide, are we doing the right things, or what do we need to change to make sure our kids are growing how we want them to? So I'm excited to be a little bit hard on ourselves professionally to continue to get better so our kids get better. So really excited for the tests to get them over with, but then look at that data to see where we can get better going forward.
All right. I just want to piggyback on Adam's a little bit with the band concert. If you were there the other night, you heard the 5th grade, you heard the 6th grade, you heard the junior high, and then you heard the high school. And in 5th grade, you're kind of going, all right, I think I can kind of hear that. In 6th grade, I'm like, all right, I'm hearing it. 7th and 8th grade, it was picking right up. And then when the high school band came, it was, as Danny and I had talked, it was probably one of the best concerts in 5 years that I've ever been a part of here. Just because of the output that was coming out of that band concert was unbelievable. And I told Matt, Mr. Ayler, you're the right guy. You're the right guy we hired, what was that, 3 years ago, I think? Is that right, Joe?
I think so.
All right.
Yeah.
But it's just gone, it's gone crazy. And then giving Joe some credit to the musical. We did Fiddler on the Roof a couple weeks ago now. It's just amazing to watch him and our kids and our families come together for that, because we don't really start working on, he does a lot of stuff Joe does, individually. And the last 2 weeks, we're like, hey, we need a place to practice, and we're gonna put this all together for a 250 ticket show, 2 nights in a row. And just how that comes together, and it's an impressive feat, and I just wanna give kudos to Joe, the musical families, everybody that did something to get us, to get that show was awesome. And Ty was was the Fiddler on the Roof, and, you know, at the trivia night the other night, they had a picture of the Fiddler on the Roof guy. And I'm like, oh my gosh, Ty, you're right there. And it was just kind of it was just a really neat, piece that they all brought together, and, just Joe and everybody that was there, I just wanna give them a huge shout out on what they accomplished. So, hopefully you as a board got to see that. If you didn't, next year it's right here, so you won't have to worry about traffic. So, that'll be awesome. Just another thing is, something I don't know if you as a board know, but high school seniors are required to be CPR trained before they can graduate. That's all been kinda goofy. So we're setting that up with our, local firemen, here, that are gonna run that here in the month of April, I believe. Mrs. Toll and I have been working with them, but I don't know, sometimes they get a little grumpy about having to do CPR, and if you ever get a phone call or get yes, it is required, and, we're just following the requirements of the state. So I'm letting you know that is happening. The requirement came back in 2022, but, just one of the things that Mrs. Toll and I were talking about today, and I thought you as a board might wanna know that our kids have to be CPR trained. Some of them by trade, by their job right now are already trained. They just have to bring in a slip of paper to prove that we did. And, when I get into our JMC, they have to click, yes, CPR trained for everybody. So that's a graduation requirement.
Is that something they have to do only in their senior year,
Yeah,
or can they do it sooner?
they can do it sooner, but they have to do it their senior year in order for me to say that they've met all their requirements. And when Dr. Trimble gets up and says, board, all these kids have met all their requirements, it's not just the academics, it's little things like the CPR they have to do as well.
So they do that individually, or?
We do that as a class.
So there's a class.
Yeah, we kind of have a fire safety on one half, and then we have CPR because they can't get as many kids in to the area, so they kind of do it in a full day out at the fire station, and, half of them will take CPR in the morning and then do the kind of the fire safety, that thing in the morning, and then they rotate, they eat lunch, and then they go and do that. So, the fire station's been very handy the last couple of years, or last year, I guess, because the year before that, we didn't have to do it, so. Along with that, we got ISAS data, you heard about that. I'm just gonna echo what they did, not get into that too much, but high school is doing ours on April 10th through the 14th, 9th through 11th grade. And then last but not least, 3DE. We're working with the 3D team from not only from junior achievement, but from 3D, and we're working on a time frame for them that someone's come in and give you a presentation, and then you can ask questions at someone that's actually experienced in and doing it. We're still on track. Thursday is our third due diligence meeting that we will be a part of. Jessie Myers last week, Monday, she went to Georgia and observed a school that was doing 3DE, and she came back, and you all know Jessie. She was so excited I had to almost calm down, Jessie, we got a year of planning. She was so excited for her kids and they're gonna be able to do this, and so it's just good to see that she's seeing what I'm seeing, and then hopefully we can take the rest of our team to another school that's doing 3D so they can see that. But I think it's in May, we're gonna bring April? All right, April will bring in a 3D person to present to you, and then you can ask them questions about what it is and all that, so.
Is it this Thursday for the due diligence?
Yep.
meeting? That's something we could sit into, or not?
Oh, it's just,
Or what
it's
is it?
just a midday planning.
Oh, okay,
Yeah,
not really
Not really.
necessary, okay,
No.
gotcha.
you're always welcome, but
I don't know about a good use
wouldn't
of
at this point.
Yeah, okay, I gotcha.
So, yeah,
Just for kind of an overview of what it is that we get asked about it, it's kind of more curriculum, a different type of curriculum
It's
for the high
based-
school?
yeah, it'll be just for ninth graders that first year in the 24-25 school year. And those ninth graders will have a set of 6 case studies throughout the year that are right aligned with their classes in English, science, math, all their ninth grade classes that they are cohorted together with. So meaning only ninth graders, those classes will be doing these case studies, and it could be for companies like Target, Home Depot. It could be some local companies too, but that's part of what this next year is, started in August. We will plan with a 3DE partner right here and the teachers will plan all those case studies that have to do with, like team building, there's 6 core competencies that they will learn as 9th graders, and then there's 6 more that they'll learn as 10th graders. And so this will follow them all the way through their high school career, and as a senior, they'll have like a capstone, or they'll have a project that they will do, and they will present that to the board, could present that to their classmates, could present that to, let's say they're working for a Target and they want them to redesign their entrance or something. That is something that would be kind of their ultimate capstone that they would do their senior year. So they will follow 3DE throughout their whole high school career. And then like this year, 6th graders would be the next set of freshmen coming into 3DE. And what I would compare it to is it's a little bit like Iowa Big when you went down to that, what was the bank when we went and visited in Tom, is where they would do more project-based learning, but it's gonna be incorporating their math, their science. So every
All their
student,
subjects.
right,
And this will be each student in
Each student.
9th grade will do this,
correct,
no matter what.
yep.
So that individual growth, does that original case study they do in 9th grade, that's the one they follow?
No, because
They
they'll do 6 case studies in their freshman year. And it all has and what they'll do is they're trying to capture their 6 core competencies, and it's in that. Did you guys get a chance to look at that PowerPoint
Well, I wonder if it might be helpful for you if I resend you, because I've sent you a couple things, resend you just right before that April meeting, then you can brush up a little bit more, it's fresh on your mind, then you'll hear the presentation and you might know better what you want to ask.
So our first group of students that would actually take this is current, what,
7th graders.
current 7th graders?
Yeah. We'll spend all of next year planning and have everything in place so that all of our teachers and all of our support personnel, because we'll actually have a person that is assigned over at high school from 3DE, will be on site helping and guiding this through us as well.
And I know one of the probably forefront items for you will be thinking about budget. So this is kind of a shift of Iowa Big expenditure to 3DE expenditure as far as the local commitment, financial commitment. Then we have our JA partner who will add staffing. It's their ad to make it all work. So you're not going to see a huge budget influx at all.
So we won't be really doing the Iowa Big stuff. Well, we haven't.
This is the next version
I
of
see.
Iowa Big.
Okay.
I can just go back and maybe capture the paragraphs I've written to you. Again, I'll put them right before that board meeting so you can brush up again.
It's pretty darn exciting, and once we get into that point, and if Jeremiah or anybody wants to come in and visit and be part of that planning sessions when 3DE and our teachers are doing it, you're always welcome.
Thanks, guys. Harley?
I don't have anything.
That was quick. Board members?
I just had one thing, kind of more of a question, I've been getting asked a lot about schedule and stuff with the auditorium construction wise. And I know there has been a couple bumps in the road, but just kind of where we're at. Because I think from my latest understanding, I think we have the surety company is involved with Apex with scheduling, is that right?
Not at this point. They have met their targets and we've kind of backed away from meeting that. Everything would match the newsletter article that I have
I've
out
seen that.
recently.
Yeah, so July, I think it's an early July finishing.
Yeah, we probably, by the time we get our final inspections, are gonna be pushing more toward that August true closeout, and you know how punch lists go, but everything I have in that newsletter article is fairly accurate. One of the key things is the auditorium seating, I think, if my memory serves me correct, has an 11-week lead time, and they have to field measure for that, which caused me great confusion because we've known we needed 500 seats for a very long time. So I wanted to know, why don't you just have 500 seats ready, get them in here? Well, once they do all of their pours, they have 500 seats ordered, but they actually will field measure so that I'm gonna totally make this up, I think if you have like a row of 40 seats, they field measure how much space they have to work from, and they'll actually custom measure or build each of those 40 seats so they fit that row. So yes, we're in queue to have our 500 seats, but they won't start building them until they can do those field measures. So that's a big leap.
And so once they measure, it's another 11 weeks
Mhm.
after that.
Yep, and we're getting very close on those final quarters.
Yeah, I just more, you know, I was getting some questions on that, like with the, if there was this, a surety company, because we never pulled a bond, did we?
We worked with the surety company, yes, Harley and I and OPN.
To establish a schedule, right?
It was about schedule, it was about proper workforce. It covered a lot of different topics that we were displeased with,
Sure.
but we have successfully worked all the way through that. A big piece of it was getting subcontractors back on site due to negligence in payment, not on the district's part, but on Apex's part. And then we brought in the dual check process, got all those subcontractors back on track. So everything is on target. We have new personnel on site from Apex that are doing a very nice job of helping us hit targets.
So at this point, they're meeting everything, and even if they dropped the ball and had to move a date back or something like that, then would the surety company get involved, or how does that get?
It could be if we
If that happened.
are dissatisfied with how we can handle it.
Oh, you would hear, but at this point, you haven't seen any of that, they've been meeting targets and moving forward,
Yep,
okay?
absolutely.
Good.
No news is good news is kind of how I would speak to the board. You haven't gotten any updates about urgency or problems, and it's because it's good news at this point, on target.
Good. Sounds good, thanks.
Ever you got anything? Joanna? All right, Danny, you're on the hot seat.
Another bit of good news. Corey was very diligent with pursuing timeline on the irrigation that you approved last month, and has confirmed that they will start immediately after the completion of the soccer season, and will be able to have it done in the time frame we want, so that's good news. Good news number 2, in 16 years that I've been a superintendent, I have never heard of a perfect bus inspection, so kudos to our staff, perfect bus inspection. Not a single out of service, not a single 30-day, that is not entirely unheard of. It can happen, but it really doesn't happen all that often. So Bob Stevens, Bob Beatty, drivers reporting things in a timely manner, just all things are clicking so nicely in that department, and kudos to them. So if you see them, congratulate them. They should be very proud. The 22-23 calendar, I anticipate coming back to you in April with a suggestion on a revision to student attendance days. I'm holding off because it's Iowa, and we don't know weather until we get a good way through April. So I would anticipate you're gonna see a proposal from the administration about when the last student day would be, because we do have some hours that within the requirements we could eliminate. Won't change the staff contract of 190 days, but it would possibly, if the board supported it, take 1, maybe more days off the student calendar.
How many days have we have yet to make up? Are we good?
No, we have days to make up. We are, so we have 4 days after Memorial Day and coming back the Monday after at this point. So we will bring you a proposal that likely adjusts that.
So about 5, you say?
I think it's 5. I think we had 7 total, because we had 2 in the calendar.
Last 5 Thursdays.
Pretty much.
All right. Oh, and finally, on your consent agenda, which always goes by quickly, that's what a consent agenda is for. I want to thank Mr. Henriksen for his years of service in the district in a multitude of different positions, most recently principal. Thank you.
All right, moving on then, should we take a motion to approve that consent agenda?
I suppose we could pull that resignation out, actually.
Yeah, we don't have to.
Sorry, drew too much attention.
I make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll second it.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Financial reports.
Down to dialogue action.
Oh, whoops, yeah, I'm sorry, I apologize. School calendar again.
For next year, yep. Something different for you this year. We work with a committee every year of employees. We meet multiple times. I've asked them to come and present this time, and they said yes. So Loxley and Joe are here to present to you, I think, about process and the final product. Yay you.
I'll start. We had a total of 10 members on the calendar committee with teacher representation across the district, from elementary to the high school, as well as an instructional strategist, 3 building principals. Our 11th committee member was our superintendent, serving as our moderator for our meetings. Do you want to know exactly who was on, or was that a good overview?
That's good.
Okay, cool.
Whatever you want to provide.
Well, I have it all.
If you're trying to say it wasn't my fault.
Yeah.
Well, if you don't like anything, it's always Josh's fault. We went through the process of collecting feedback using Google Forms. It's much easier for canvassing purposes. Our preps don't always align, and then some people get out of here before other people, so doing it electronically, I feel like we got some good results back, and people were able to type to their heart's content. This process allowed for information to be collected in a timely manner. It was easily accessible, as well as bringing it to our meetings. It was right there for us. Staff were encouraged to fill out the form so that their opinions were heard and taken into consideration for the next draft. We completed this process a total of 2 times, and we brought the responses with us each time.
After our first meeting, we came up with a proposal, a draft, and like Loxley said, solicited feedback from staff. Particularly, we were asking about fall conferences, that if people preferred a longer spring break or longer Christmas break, and then we also addressed some spring conferences and how we would do that. After feedback from that, we met again and met as a committee, came up with the second draft, and with responses to that, came up with this third draft, which is what we have proposed to you today. Some of the more significant changes that we are proposing and in response to staff input were that on the first contract day for teachers, we allow them to flex either August 17th or the 18th, which is a Thursday or Friday, and that they can decide which one, but have to be at one. Then the first full day of classes with students is August 23rd, and that would be a full day, followed by 2 1:00 dismissals. In the past, I think we've done 2 1:00 dismissals and then a full day on a Friday, and we thought maybe letting them out earlier for the weekend might be nice. That was kind of it for the beginning of the year. Fall conferences, rather than the Tuesday, Thursday we usually do, Tuesday is Halloween. In that week, we plan for conferences, so we propose to move that to Monday, the 30th, and then, I don't remember what the Thursday is. That other day, sorry. 2nd, thank you. Christmas break is not going to be very long, but that's what it is this year. We added a 1:00 dismissal for professional development on January 12th. And the biggest movement, I think, was around the spring conferences and spring break. Spring conferences, we proposed would be on the 5th and the 7th of March, with a full workday, professional development day, the Friday before that. So March 1st, full day for professional development, workday. Then that following week, the 5th and the 7th, we have conferences. And our 191st day, we have had in different places in the year, but that's a full professional development day, technically an optional day for staff. We've proposed to move that to March 11th. March 12th then would be the comp day for parent-teacher conferences that were the previous week. Brian proposed that just be a district holiday, but the committee wasn't pursuing it, so birthday celebrations will have to adjust accordingly. But that then could allow for staff to have, students will have a full week of spring break. That March 11th is an optional professional development day for teachers. It'll be up to them to choose. And then the 12th, like I said, is the comp day. It was also pretty strongly voiced that the Monday after Easter, which next year will be April 1st, is not a snow makeup day, that it's just a day off. And then that leaves our last day with students on May 29th next year. I don't know if I'm speaking very well to the question about potential snow day or hour makeups. We do have a couple of days built in again, but
Yes, and so from here, any questions are welcome. There are more than these two in those committee meetings, so we can address things. But we did get feedback from staff, and when they're talking about feedback from staff, they come with, of course, a staff hat, but also thinking about their students and their families that they work with. So we do get that, we think, represented. We're keeping the 2 snow makeup days like we always have had, well, recently had, but putting them in a little bit different place with the Friday prior to Easter instead of the Monday after. There was some discussion about no makeup days, as I recall. I mean, we banter a lot of things in these meetings.
So Good Friday's not a holiday?
It is not a holiday. There are schools that don't take the Friday or the Monday because they load spring break more than we traditionally have.
How many days off do we typically take for snow and stuff like that?
It
Yeah,
varies
of
widely.
You know, I didn't know if we're averaging 5 or,
No.
just personally, when I look at this, I'm thinking to myself, that's, you know, if you had 5 days on for next year, I mean, you're gonna be going into June if you're not careful. I don't necessarily like that, I don't think a lot of people do, when you get into that June timeframe.
I will welcome comments from the committee because we do this work together. I don't know where you would find more of them in the school year, because you can't put any really before January 1st. You don't have the weather to deal with. And then you become very limited. So duly noted, Aaron, we banter that quite a lot. The question really is where.
So the 15th and 19th, is that Martin Luther King Day and President's Day, is that what those 2 days are?
Yes.
correct.
Are those dedicated
No,
for,
you should answer.
are those dedicated for snow days? If we were to have a snow day prior to,
So the 19th is, the 15th is not.
The 15th is not touchable, like that's just a day off.
Martin Luther.
Yes.
But in the past, it's been a day we've used as a makeup, correct?
We've been, yes, and I did a survey about this time last year of all schools in Grantwood 8A, and we were one of 2 that were being a little more free with Martin Luther King Day. And so was challenged to bring it back in a calendar that didn't do that this year.
Didn't have it as a snow day or something.
And even, was it this year too? Did we?
We had PD.
Yeah, we need staff.
Same, that might have been 2 years ago that we checked into that.
Do we typically have a full week off for spring break?
No.
Typically?
No.
Is that what you were kinda getting at, Aaron? Was just the longer spring break and the?
Longer spring break, I mean, like I say, it just, right now, looking at it right there, it just, we didn't even have that harsh of a winter right now, we had 5 days off.
So spring break would, if it didn't look like this, the 11th would be somewhere else, if we weren't having school, and the 12th would be somewhere else. So we're not
You would-
adding more time off, we're just moving them around.
You could have school on the 11th or the 12th of March, is that what you're saying?
I'm saying you sure could, but now you have to go find a different day to schedule your 191st day and your comp day. So you're not gonna gain.
Explain that 191st day.
Yes, a teacher contract is 190 days. We have by code required to have, to use professional development dollars in different ways, and this is one of them. We call it the 191st day because they're working another day, but it is paid outside the contract as per diem out of our professional development allocation. Mr. Fagerson's right that it's optional, but it's on us to make it compelling content, because it's really, we probably from more of an administrative, maybe even board lens, would not consider it optional, but it is, it really is, and we rarely have people who opt out.
As a staff, I feel like I miss out more if I'm not at the 191st day. So I make it a point to know that I'm going to attend it personally.
It will land somewhere in the academic calendar if you take it out of spring break, which will simply shift a day. You're not gonna gain what you're looking for there.
Yeah, that's a tough job to put that together.
There's some years we don't use any days really beyond, it's Iowa, it's weather, and sometimes I get it right and sometimes I don't, and there's just nothing we can do about that in the middle of it.
Well, that was one year, what was that one year we had all kinds of, I can't remember what year that was.
2018,
Polar
2019.
Is that what year was that?
Yeah, it was
18,
18, 19? There was just a ton of them, wasn't there?
Yeah, and you may even consider moving forward, I'm gonna recommend you don't do it right now this year, but you may even consider that you don't, there are some, I don't have no idea how many, there are some districts who just have no makeup days, they get to the end, you know, April, May, decide how close they are to the minimum requirement of 1,080 hours, and they just stop the school year. We've taken the stance at Alburnett, since we were able to start doing hours, we've taken the stance that if we miss an academic day, we're going to get it back. If we miss 2 hours, we count it, but we don't try and go find it in a calendar. That's a philosophical approach to a calendar, that maybe in the future you'll wanna change that if you're concerned about going to school in June. And honestly, every 7 years, the calendar rolls and is this kind of our hardest spot? I don't know, Josh, you usually keep track more of where we are in that rotation. We're kind of coming into the hardest of the years here, aren't we?
For the
Winter break,
Yeah.
and it spills into
It's when it depends on when it lands, you know, if it's on a Wednesday or it just depends when it lands, when Christmas Day and New Year's Day land. Something like this year we were at almost 2 full weeks. And next year it rolls to where you don't get that because of where Christmas lands, so it's hard.
Well, and when the legislators also put that August 23rd is the first day you can do that, well, the first year they had that new law was a Monday. Well, as the week goes, now the 23rd is gonna be on Wednesday next year, and then Thursday, and then on Friday. At some point, I would hope that they would say, hey, how about the Monday after the state fair? If that's really what they're looking at, but sometimes that doesn't always happen.
Yeah, because really then that first week you could have a full week rather than just 3 days of the week.
Right.
Or 1 day.
Yeah.
Yeah, it really does depend on where the start of the school year lands and where Christmas and New Year, it kind of dictates the first semester is kind of dictated on where that lands, and then the second semester is dictated on where Christmas and New Year's land, and then in terms of how long or short the break is and how many days you can take there or not. So this is absolutely an ever-moving target.
Yeah. And you can scroll up a little bit. So where does the first semester end next year?
It will still end before Christmas.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Does that seem to work out pretty good for you guys?
Uh-huh.
Yes. The secondary end of things that.
We never used to do that.
So is the semester over
First
on the
semester,
21st?
first before Christmas.
Yeah, correct. Yeah.
That 1,080 hours, is that 1,080 hours, is that what you're saying? Or-
yes.
How does that equate to the 190 days? I mean, relative, but
It doesn't, so that's where you use these gray boxes. We're required to have 180 student days, or hours. Let me try that again. 1,080 student hours minimum. The calendar used to be 176, you count them 178 student days. So we've stuck to that concept of how many days we wanna be with kids, and when you translate that to hours, that's, yeah, you can see my cursor, 1157. This calendar has 11,157 hours in it. That's student days. We have to always think an entirely different concept when we talk about contract days. It's 176 days plus 2 days for conferences plus, and that's where this box that says contract days comes in. Work days, PD days, holidays, and they will equal 190.
For the sake of conversation, to kind of address Bethany's question, what does it look like to extend the day on one end or the other? Is that even?
And would you do it
Is it-
only second
Is that even
semester?
really feasible?
It certainly is feasible, and debatable, because we're not here to do a debate, you probably only get my side of the story, but you would want to think very carefully about the academic gain. If you put, I'm just gonna make this up, 20 minutes on the end of the school day, from an elementary perspective, that probably plays nicely with academic gain. If you split that across 8 class periods at the high school, rounding my math, you picked up 3 minutes. And I would wanna have a serious conversation, debate, about the quality of academic gain in 3 minutes. Then
So
you're
it's not like
just
you're adding
jumping a
another-
hoop,
You're
right?
not really adding a class or anything
Right,
to the, you're just
Checking the
lengthening,
box.
you're just lengthening the.
checking them out.
Yeah.
So I would rather come back to the board in April, for example, this year, and talk to you about academic gain or loss if you were going to school on June 5th, a Monday, June 5th. I would rather have that conversation with you than try and maybe convince myself and then you that 3 minutes of a high school class is academic gain.
I will say one thing in contrast to that, I think I know what you're saying, but at the end of the school year, I don't see much academic gain out of the students when they're here, when you lengthen that, as opposed to 3 minutes at each class period, when they can try to get something finished up.
Yeah, I'm
Just-
saying the same thing.
Okay, you're saying the same thing, okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
rather than adjusting everyone's schedule, I
Yeah.
would suggest that I may be bringing you a proposal to just say, let's not go to school that day. Because I don't think you could really convince me then you that you're gonna have the academic gain to lengthen those school days.
Yeah,
And make
yeah.
the same thing happen.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
We have a motion to approve the calendar.
I'll make a motion to approve the calendar.
I'll second it.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the 2023-2024 school calendar. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Thanks, guys. That's hard.
Yeah, good job.
Tough to make everybody happy. We
Thank
can't-
you.
can't
It
have
was a
that.
sacrifice I was willing to make. Thank you.
Superintendent contract, Will Bible.
I don't have any comments.
Okay. Okay, so, we've all talked about it. We know what that contract looks like. Do you have anything to add, Harvey?
No, the contract was just as you guys proposed.
Yep, so, we're just looking for a motion to approve that contract.
I'll make a motion to approve the superintendent contract.
I'll second it.
It's been moved and seconded to approve Will Dival superintendent contract. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. All right, motion passes. Public hearing.
The actual action tonight is to set our public hearing date, time, get it published, but also choose which ASCII you want published. You can never go above what gets published. So we have some scenarios to bring you tonight and rationale. They're set up in the same format you're used to seeing them without maybe a longer presentation. So I just wanted to kind of set the stage, what we're doing tonight, before you see numbers. When we come back on that hearing night, it'll be a special meeting, we hope, on April 10th, if you would agree to that action. Then you're actually finalizing and setting that budget. So you're seeing scenarios tonight, probably gonna publish the one you think is the one you would go with, but your final action doesn't happen until April.
And another thing before Danny hands us out is it's not all about the tax asking, although that's a big part of our certified budget. Our certified budget is also about our expenditures and the 4 control lines, so our instruction, our support, our transfers and our debt, and non-instructional, which would be our food service. So we have 4 control lines that we're monitoring in our certified budget, but it also does bring in our tax asking, which is what generates the revenue. So it's 2 things, although we're only really gonna talk about the one, because on the back end, Danny and I, put together the expense part.
So take and pass, please. We are bringing you 4 scenarios this evening. Some years you get 2, some years you get 3. We want you to see 4 tonight. The variables are very limited. Board, you don't have a ton of control over what goes in here because it is student enrollment driven. But you do have control over what we've highlighted here with, on the screen it's pink and blue. I think it gets a little more orange on your printed page. The MF stands for Management Fund. Reminder, Management Fund is property and property and liability,
Yeah, property. Casualty,
insurance, potential unemployment claims, early separation agreements if you were using them, which you are not. And so we have some options for you to talk about in the management fund. The second variable you can play with, so to speak, is your PEPL voter approved levy and how much of that goes to income surtax versus property tax. So I'm gonna just break them down from there. The management fund at 200,000 is what we've been talking about. Coming out of last year into this year, we were planning for that range. We have just learned, and I might just kick it over to you to let you talk about the increase.
Yeah, so we've seen we have not actually got our renewal rates yet for property and casualty insurance, but we have been told that there will be a pretty significant increase, around 30-35% increase on the management, on the property and casualty insurance, which is astronomical, and it's obviously a lot to do with things like the derecho. But that's just on the building part of it. Our work comp has increased tremendously as well, which is, I guess, what's driving the need for more revenue in our management fund, because that's the only way we can pay for this.
So I'll put up on the screen at some point if you want the management fund, but we need you to focus on the revenue of $250 coming into the management fund. It has nothing to do with any future early separation packages. You need just that much to meet our requirements for that insurance. So really, we're shifting you to scenarios 3 and 4, but we want you to know that you have options 1 and 2 if you want as well. We'll circle back to any of this as you want. Then PEPL generates the same amount of money no matter what you do with this next decision. The key, so these two are opposite things. We can move how much we're getting with management fund in the first conversation. PEPL is going to stay the same no matter what you do. The difference is how much of it comes from the property tax and how much of it comes as an income surtax. Reminder, in income surtax, because people sometimes get off on this, incorrect on this, it's a tax on the amount of tax you're paying. So it's not more of the same, like multiplying income tax. When you get your income tax bill, this is a tax on that amount that you're paying. So it's still a tax on you, on me, I get that, but remember what it is. We have used 1% and 2% income surtax on PEPL since we added that language that was approved by the voters quite a few years ago now. We would even propose that you consider shifting 3% this time, just to kind of work with that overall property tax rate that you'll find at the bottom. So last year, actually this year, we're living with a $15.14 levy. So I'm clear down at the bottom now.
Where's the property tax one, you said?
And the green,
Oh, okay, okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
So clear off to the left, we're showing you present year, so you can think about what might be changing, $15.14. There's a range here then, around that $14.98 to $15.23. There are a whole lot of other things I could just kind of keep talking about, but I'd rather just stop and see, what are you wondering about these scenarios?
scenario 1 versus scenario 4. Explain to me again on the, oh shoot, what'd you say in this report?
Management fund.
Management fund.
Yep, so that would.
Explain to me why the 250 is better than the 200.
Because the amount that we have intended to need for paying for our property and casualty insurance next year, we've been notified to expect a 30 to 35% increase. We are going to need the 250. If you kick that can down the road, you're just gonna have to come back with more the next year, because we're still gonna write in or build in, I think we've been projecting 15% increases over year. And you should not kick that can down the road.
And the difference between that and scenario 4 is a 1% increase in your surplus. Or your income,
Correct,
income
as well.
surtax, not surplus.
Yep.
It's a way that you could offset, but let's be fair, it's still taxes, right? It's just how we're paid.
Right,
But I
but we've
think-
talked about this before, when you have an income surtax, that means everybody's skin is in the game. Whereas property tax, when you raise, only property owners absorb that increase.
Yeah.
So at one time, I don't know if you guys were aware, at one time, we didn't have a surplus, or a surtax. We didn't implement that until Danny got here. So it looked like our property taxes were higher. We were paying more in property taxes. Well, they were higher. But it looked like we were paying more than other Lynn County districts. Okay, but that was because we didn't have an income surtax. So we did, and then our property taxes came down, but we were still getting the money through the income surtax. So, I mean, is that something that you're recommending, is to bump that surtax?
And we're not, I mean, other districts are still much higher than 3%. Granted, there are some that are lower, but, you can go up to 20%, so.
Yeah, and you'll see some 7s or some 9s or even in the teens.
So I guess my whole point of that
We're up
spiel
from-
is that.
We'd be up from 2 right now, is that where we're at right now?
Yeah.
Yeah, and you have to go by full percentages, you can't dig around in between.
But my whole point of that spiel is that with the everybody's gonna absorb it. All landowners or property owners are gonna absorb that.
Yeah,
But in the surtax, even the renters, anybody that has kids going to the district, live in the district, are gonna feel that too.
That are renting.
yeah. There's no
There's not a
difference.
whole lot of rental properties in.
You're saying the same thing I'd be saying, because I'm a landowner, so either way, I'm helping mitigate one cost, but I've also got a surtax on the other side of it.
Yeah.
We do have
What-
some of the other, more visual representations we've looked at in the past. I just really, rather than plod through a long presentation, you've done this. I can pull things as you're wondering. They're ready and queued up, but only what you need at this point.
And that management fund, that 250, where that's coming from the management fund, where,
That is to feed the management fund. So let me just jump there. Sometimes these worksheets, they get busy, so.
Because this is planning to put $250,000 additional into the management fund, correct?
Right, if you remember back on like the buckets Danny used to show, the only way to get money into that bucket is through this tax.
Yeah.
And so we know what has to come out as expenses, so we need that money to feed that bucket.
And so now that, we just know that one of our expenses is going up
Yeah.
substantially, so we
Substantially.
just need to prepare for it.
So
Correct.
insurance is driving the increase.
Oh, 100%, yeah.
Which includes workman's comp. Yes.
But like Danny said, if you do 200 this year, you're only gonna see it continue to increase, so you're talking like your hand is gonna you have to probably do 300 next year then.
But I just wonder what it looked like if you did 275 and 2% or something like that. I mean, what do the numbers look like? What difference
Well,
is-
rather than kind of get lost in the weeds, you can look the difference between 200 to 250 is 20 cents. I'm using the scenarios you've got in front of you.
Okay.
The difference between the income surtax at 84 cents and basically 60 cents, I mean, you're really just playing around that $15 mark. I don't, and you're asking what if we put 275 in the management fund?
That's why I'm just curious, what would it be like if you had 275 and,
Well,
two-
before we
two-
do that, let's look at this. So this is the management fund, and not getting lost in a lot of what's on here, let's just look at, our bill we anticipate by the end of the year on insurance is 190. When we put a 30% increase on that, which is the low end of what to expect, we're at 248. So I feel like you're covering your necessary revenue, starting the year with some balance, because you're gonna wanna keep a balance in here as well. I don't think you need to go to 275. So before she can manipulate all of that and give you new numbers, but then it just gets really like, why are we doing this?
Mhm.
You don't need 275. There's a chance we're gonna get a 40% increase instead of 30 or 35. We're not gonna know that, but the management fund is situated such that those little differences might be okay. You can correct it the next year, just don't kick it down the road.
do you know where other, not to keep bouncing around other ideas, but do you know where other districts are at as far as the surtax is concerned? Where they're sitting at, I mean,
Oh, in the area,
yeah,
I don't right off immediately, they have, I'm just gonna misquote, and I don't wanna do that for another district. No, that would take me well.
No, I also don't know exactly like district for district, but like I mentioned, there are many districts that are in like the, 7 to 9s, and then a couple that are probably higher than that. Although there are quite a few districts that are down at 1% like we were for a while.
mhm.
So I wouldn't say it's out of the norm to do a higher percentage. And you can change this every year.
Mhm.
So guys, so looking forward, to a year from now, when, well, it's not even gonna be a year, but when we start talking about early separation packages and that type of thing, is there still gonna be enough money in there to fund early separations? Because that's been a strategy we've used to, so are these increases gonna cover that if we were to go that route, or is that gonna put us in a position where we can't do early separation?
Short term, you could, so you're going to end, we predict this fiscal year at 160,000. I would say allowing that to dip even to 100,000 in the future is probably okay, but you've got that probably $60,000 play in there right now. The number of potential early retirements, think like an actuary, is still very small, so you don't wanna build out an enormous management fund unnecessarily. Short term, yes, and then every year you just revisit this.
Just as a side note, did we have anybody accept that?
No.
Did.
And that cushion that Danny is kind of talking about, so if you see fiscal year 24 starting at 160,000, we do want to keep that cushion in there for multiple reasons. We might misjudge the increase on insurance. We might, work comp might go up mid-year. We might decide to give a early retirement, but also unemployment claims come out of there, and any kind of like lawsuits could be funded out of this too. So it is kind of an emergency fund in a way too.
Mhm.
So you don't want to ever have it at nothing.
Two schools of thought here. One, publish the highest scenario that we have here, knowing that you're gonna come back in and make a change when we meet, because that is not your goal. I've worked with you enough to know that is not your goal. Potential downside of that, you're gonna answer a lot of questions when it shows up in the newspaper, and then you have to explain that we're just giving ourselves room, and we'll talk about it in April. Or, these are pretty straightforward options. publish the one that we're recommending, and we'll probably come right in at that. There should be no changes. All the legislative cleanup that can happen for next year is done with the valuations. And so we would steer you that way, but know that you've got that option to publish high. Your action tonight, we try and keep this simple as far as your handouts, would be to name the scenario that you decide to publish. And then going back to the agenda, you have a quick conversation about how you feel about April 10th at 6 o'clock doing this budget approval. So that's kind of the path we're headed toward.
So what scenario are you actually recommending here?
3 or 4 you said, right?
And really, which one is kind of the higher of the two? Because, I mean, you're looking at the green.
4
and
is-
the bottom.
4, I would say, would be mine.
We did.
Yeah, I think Judy and I both recommend 4, but really what the biggest difference you're seeing here is your
This not here,
your
this not
tax.
here.
Yeah.
So 1523 or 1498, and it is kind of a perception thing, we're dipping below $15.
And that's kind of why, that's where I was leaning, was just purely out of perception.
Which one?
Was the scenario 4.
Yes, I would agree.
Yeah, just because, I mean, it's lower than last year, or the current year, and like I said, it's below 15, but.
I'm recommending 4.
Yeah, but I do want you guys to also think about, and Jason, I know, and Aaron, you guys are good proponents of this, like the levying extra for debt payoff, so that will come down the road eventually, so it's not like we're not gonna always be below 15.
So really what dropped your property tax on scenario 4 was adding that 1% to the surtax.
Yeah, we actually, well, I'll say I
And the
think it's
250
we, and you can join me if I'm right, but
And 250 compared to.
we liked scenario 1 on first work through, because we liked that, as your property rate is going to continue to decrease because of some of the property tax relief efforts that are happening in Iowa, your rate's gonna keep going down. We liked moderating a little bit with scenario 1 because we believe soon you will be able to come back in with that prepaid levy. It saves the taxpayers a ton of interest, long range. We've used it here, and it would feel like less of a swing when you decide to bring that in. Then we got the news about the insurance, and we had to shift our mindset to more now conversations, which takes us to scenario 4, which I'm glad you mentioned, that prepaid tax. You are gonna wanna talk about that, and it will cause, you'll need to pick the right time that it feels like a moderated tax rate, not a big swing. There's no way to predict that at this point. Valuations will continue to climb, property tax relief will continue to happen in the state of Iowa, the right time will come.
So we're looking for a motion to approve one scenario or another to be published for public hearing.
Yeah, and also like on a side note, kind of, I need you guys to all decide if Monday, April 10th at 6 PM will work for a special meeting to hold that public
So can we
hearing.
decide that right now, and then just put that in motion?
You have to.
Yeah, what do you guys all think of that day?
I'll get that day checked.
That works for me.
Yeah, it should work.
I'll make a motion to approve the publication of scenario 4, with the hearing for it on Monday 10th at 6 PM,
I'll second it.
April, Monday the 10th.
Okay, it's been motion and second to approve the publication for hearing for 2023-2024 budget, utilizing scenario 4 on the date of Monday, April 10th. All in favor?
All right.
I,
All Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. That's a tough one.
I just have to say, I think you guys have the right conversations about it, I appreciate that.
Good. Okay, technology. Danny?
In this section of the agenda, I've asked Jason about this, and he's okay with a little bit different approach. I'm going to walk you through with some help from the room on the first the 5 items that are going to be PEPAL and SAVE expenditures. That way, you first hear them as the projects themselves, ask some questions if you need to. Then I'm going to circle back and show you how they fit in your revenue and your expenditure projections, so you can understand scope, because we're talking about some big numbers, as I wrote to you last week. That's kind of returning to normal practice. And then you can come back and take them one at a time for approval. That way you won't get caught up in wondering if you'll be able to cover the 5th one by the time you get there. So the first one is technology related. I've given you quite a lot of information here on the agenda that I want to use. So if you want to follow with me, there's some helpful information in here. E-rate comes in 2 forms, Category 1 and Category 2, pretty fancy. Category 1 we do every year. There's an application and reporting process that allows us to get discounts on our internet. Used to include long distance, but now it's just internet. In addition to that, districts can apply for Category 2 funding. It's a bucket of funding available for 5 years. And you just decide if you have a project in that 5-year window, do we want to access that funding? Our calculation at Alburnett is that we've got $136,000 to request to be used over that time frame. It's for things that are maybe more hardware related, I guess you could say. It won't just flat out pay for an expense. Like, you can't say, let's spend $136,000 and get reimbursed. You're gonna get reimbursed for, we expect, by a calculation that they provide, 60% of your costs. So with that in mind, we have known that we have some infrastructure issues just growing with the way things age. Bringing on the Grantwood technicians this year has given us the opportunity to get fresh eyes on our system, and they have done a really thorough job of deciding what our highest leverage items would be. So we are ready to use the E-rate process, which is outlined here. There's a form that we post publicly on the E-rate system online. Any vendor goes out and looks at that bid process and they submit their quotes to that. Then we do a formal analysis of the bids. We use a matrix with some criteria. I had the Grantwood technicians help me go through that. Then we decide which one to bring to the board. The board would approve the purchase like you're doing tonight. We then immediately would file Form 471 to request that access to our Category 2 funding. We have to get that done by the 28th, so this is a yes or no decision tonight from the board. Then we place the order and we find out that the funding is secure and get the funding and the project gets done. We have used Category 2 in the past, so we know this process, we know it works. Schools use it very regularly. So that is the process that we've been working our way through. We did get 7 bids. 3 of them outright didn't qualify. We looked at 4 of them using the matrix. 2 of them did not have the firewall included, so you have the 2 completely eligible quotes to look at here. They're significantly different, and you can go into the quotes and see item by item why they're wildly different in their pricing. I can't speak to the why, that's not the way this process works, but they are apples to apples, same product all the way through. And we are asking you to approve tonight the $152,000 quote or bid from Riverside Technologies, RTI, knowing that we're gonna then be reimbursed for about $90,000, and I'll show you the finance side of it when we get to the worksheets.
And that's the 60%.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yep. The one thing I think is important for you to hear about the why this project and why now, I'm just gonna turn it over to you.
Well, we all talked about ISASP, and that's all internet based. And, not, our internet is getting better, but we also have very, I don't know how to say it nicely, so I'm just not gonna say it nicely. It drops and it's gone, and you don't get it for 15, 20 minutes to an hour, and then all of a sudden it's back up, and the why would be, we just need to get an upgrade so that our internet is where it needs to be for us here at Alburnett Community Schools.
I can tell you the number of times I had to tell some of my teachers that they needed to go back to teaching like they did in the 90s. They didn't like that very much because it meant they're old, but there were a lot of times where we had to like just, sorry, it's not going to work today, and that's been less frequent as of now, but I think that's a lot of patchwork that's being done and not fixing the main issue. And then if you've been here at a sporting event, I can tell you a few times with like wrestling, probably even at archery, I suppose people want to get on and see what's happening. They don't have paper brackets and that kind of thing anymore. So even for our community, when they're in here in the evening, I had to say, no, you can't be on the internet because then we can't run the tournament. Like we couldn't run our wrestling tournament if people were on the internet, so we had to shut them down. So just things like that make us very inefficient in what we're doing.
Our Grantwood AEA team is recommending that we send our bid out for Meraki equipment, which they would tell us is a higher quality than what we currently have. That will help, in addition to being just newer. You know, we should be on a replacement cycle. This is replacement cycle, actually. It's time to do this.
So is the stuff from Riverside that type of equipment then? It is.
So that 136,000, this would be 90,000 of that 136,000 that you'd have over 5 years. Not every year, but over 5 years.
Exactly, yeah. Yeah, so there's room to do other things as you need to.
Just in time for its life cycle again.
Actually,
So, just a question, are you heading this up, Brian, then, or?
No.
No, okay.
Grantwood is.
Okay, so have they checked with the provider to make sure that we're getting the best service that we can get through our circuits? Because it may be time to look at upgrading those too.
What they have proposed here is what they think. They have been very thorough to recommend. I think they were nervous to bring me the whole proposal, just because they're pretty much covering everything they think we need. And because I know this mechanism is in place, I said, you just gotta give it to me. You just gotta tell me what is everything we need. Because it does include, it's not just access.
That's the whole thing.
Mhm.
So did the Grantwood people offer any explanation at all as to the discrepancy in the numbers at all, or is that?
It's purely pricing. If you put them side by side, they're the same product, and how those companies are choosing to price them for us.
Or do either one of those companies provide any type of support service built into it?
They both are,
Or are we strictly relying on Grantwood?
we require there will be support, 5 years of licensing and support.
And that's an apples to apples
Yes.
piece as well.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, I don't know how you would be sure service is apples to apples
Yeah.
until you get service, but
Sure.
it's on paper.
If on paper, they're saying it's X amount of hours or whatever, or of service kind of thing, or what is it?
No, it's the 5 years licensing and
Okay.
service, yeah. I can't say more than that. Okay, so I'm gonna go to the second one. That doesn't mean we're done talking about that, but that one probably required as much explanation as any of them will need. Also on the priority list has been elementary entrance doors. So this is the furthest hallway, both the east and the west. They're the ones that just still don't match. That's not just aesthetics, one of them in particular. Want to speak to that?
Yeah, the one here on this side is, despite Corey's best efforts in getting folks in here, it's just time for it to be replaced. It's obviously used a lot and it's just old and needs to be upgraded. It honestly doesn't open, or it doesn't, one side doesn't open and then the other side doesn't close, so you gotta, it only comes to like right here and you gotta slam it shut, so it's, and then you obviously got kids leaving and coming during that, so it's just, honestly, it's just time for it to, it's at the end of its life cycle and it's been repaired as about as much as you can repair something.
So this is the company that we have worked with for our doors. This is for both sets, although our primary concern is one. We do want you to just do them both if you are willing. These prices are, they've grown a lot, and they're probably not gonna get better. This is even keeping our existing frames. So there would be a significant cost increase if we had to go in and demo and put new frames in, so.
Which door is this again, which two doors are these?
On the furthest hallway, there'd be the east set and the west set. So both ends of the building.
Brown doors is the way I describe it.
$24,000, two set doors. Keeping the frames.
What's the probability of having to put new frames into?
No, I think we're confident.
No,
that-
the guy said that he could easily retrofit to fit the current frames with significant savings. As much as if you can imagine that significant savings.
So will that have to be painting afterwards? And the doors?
They're on the inside, no. On there it's purple on the inside, which we would keep, and then the outside we would probably get kind of that metallic silver paint. Yeah, just quickly that frame on the outside. So yes.
So we would do that in-house, or we would have to hire?
And Corey's comfortable with that. Corey was there at obviously with this and was comfortable with that.
Okay, so we'll circle back to how this fits the budget in a little bit. Those are both Pebble. We'll show you that in a worksheet in a minute. Third one, I don't know if you know this, but we have a parking issue and could use some more student parking. So Mr. Moritz has worked with Handley to get a quote for us on, I got the wrong one here.
Did you skip the gym floor?
Is that why? No, I didn't on purpose. That's, yeah, I don't know. Yeah, okay. Gym floor refinishing. This is the Pebble expenditure. So this stems from our issue with water. We have an area that needs to be repaired. This quote has been refreshed because we didn't get to it. So it includes the repair of that section and new sanding and refinishing. I don't have a whole lot more to say with that because it is rather straightforward. But
That's on that southwest corner there where that floor is still plywood, right?
This is to refinish the entire floor.
To fix that and refinish.
Yes.
I was just gonna share that there was an insurance claim on that, so we have $25,000 sitting in Pebble for this specific expense as well.
How about that roof has been taken care of, there's no more leaks, right?
We have not experienced any concerns. With roofs, I hate to ever say, oh yeah, we got it. We have not had a problem since, in some torrential. Okay, so sorry for skipping that one. Now on to parking. The proposal is to add this section, which Mr. Moritz has become pretty pro at showing us on his aerial photos. Okay, so we're all clear on what we're talking about.
You trying to take Corey's job away or what?
No.
And the quote that we have from Handley, who has done this work for us in the past. You can see all the details here.
How many more spots is that supposed to generate?
I think it really depends on how we go about framing up the whole parking lot. 'Cause the way we have it right now with the one entrance, I think we would just extend it so that we could continue to go. So I'm guessing it's gonna, right from where that is to, like, presently we have 17 spots on each side. And with that additional spaces, I'm hoping to get at least around 20 to 25 more spots. It's still not gonna be enough for the amount of students that are driving every day, but it will help, because I think in the future we'll have the green spaces, student parking as well.
Thank you for reminding me of that. When construction is over, what Brian's talking about is this here becomes student parking as well.
When this parking lot's opened back up, is there enough staff and faculty parking up here that's adequate?
Yes.
So they're not gonna be bleeding into this taking up some student stuff?
No, and they don't now, do they?
No, we have no staff.
We actually are okay, currently with our staff space. It's events that we need to get our parking back.
Are you guys not parking anything there in that lower, you just put your cursor on there right now?
We can't right now.
Do they fill that up at night though?
Yeah,
Like
they do.
or something like that? I was thinking, I've always seen cars
Oh,
back there.
yes, oh, yes, if you can find a spare inch, someone will put a car.
Yeah. But you just don't typically park
can't.
anything.
No, it's off limits, that is part of our construction zone. There really should be no spectator
Okay.
traffic in there, but it's impossible. I mean, they park up at my window sometimes, so.
Right outside my window too.
So, just a couple of questions. So where it's shaded there, that for parking lot to be added, does that go all the way to the end of our lot to the west?
It'll go right up to that chain link fence that's right there, which, I don't know if the chain link's technically ours, or if that's, I'm assuming the chain link's ours, cause it goes all the way down our property.
I'm thinking back to derecho damage to say, yes, it is.
Yeah, we had a fence on that side that we did repair, I know, or,
Yeah, that's the one.
That's one, Felton's there.
Yeah, so that would go right up to that area there, yes.
So the other question I had was, is there still, on that, where you have your cursor yet, Danny, is there still some repair to that parking lot from
From the
construction?
crane.
There is, okay. So they'll take care of that
Mhm.
after the fact.
No concerns with the geothermal over in that area, and then maybe the geothermal probably doesn't go that far over there, maybe, I don't know, but no concerns
No,
there, so.
no. I am confident that Chloe would have raised that concern. Okay, jumping back to the agenda, so we'll get through all 5. The 5th one. Also on the priority list, now thinking back to, I talked to you in November about how once we got rolling with construction, we went back in and did a whole prioritizing process. So these are things that have been part of that, and bleachers is in there. Where you put that in the next 3 years is really up to the board, but we are proposing that this is the right time for the bleachers because of the gym floor project. I'm sure anyone who sits in the bleachers would agree that any time would be the best time. But know that there are other things in the 3-year plan that are shifting as well, because you can't just do it all this summer, so. The bleacher quotes are linked in here. We are recommending that you go with Towns End. Don't know what you really wanna see in the quotes, if anything, so I'll open this one and direct questions to you if you have any.
Simply because I don't have a print of the original. Is that gonna be higher, are they gonna be higher, it's
No,
gonna
I
be the
asked-
same
I asked
footprint, or?
that same question, and the way that they're designed, if you go higher, it just goes farther out onto the court. You can't get them at a steep
Probably
angle.
because of code, right? So-
I don't think it has anything to do with COVID, so that's a positive.
No, code.
Oh, code,
Code.
yeah.
Everything else tonight.
I don't know if it's code or not, but what they did is that I asked, cause I wanted it a little higher to get a little steeper to maybe get some more seats in there. And, he said that that is not an option. So everything as far as the measurements and what we have in there now would be very similar to what we would get with our new as far as seating capacity.
So we're not really gaining or losing what,
I mean, technically, I think you could say we would be losing a little bit because there are some cutouts for accessibility, but there is the option to use those spaces there, like in the elementary gym. They're essentially the same.
Yeah, there's handicap spaces that'll be, the cutouts is what.
So again, because I didn't have, I didn't have a map of what's there now, or a print of what's there now, are we losing any walkways going up?
Well, technically, we don't have walkways right now.
Yeah, where
We
the
have the
handrails
handles.
are.
We got, and like, I think this is the, what we would classify as the visitor side, media side of where it's at. I think based on code, they had to have these four entries in, but the railings are ones that'll automatically be there all the time, and nothing that you have to do, and they'll just fold right into the bleacher.
Oh, nice.
So, yeah, they've come a long ways in some of the things that, because they used to have to turn and pull them out.
I know some of these gyms you go to, when you walk up, there's so much there's so many feet that you have to actually go in to get an open spot, and then you have to,
Right.
you know, if there's more walkways, it just makes it a lot more convenient.
So are these those molded plastic benches too, or is that what they are?
They are plastic, yes.
More formed or
They've
whatever?
got, the technology underneath them is they've got more, support underneath the bleacher, so it's not as bendy. 'Cause sometimes when you go into a new bleacher that you could sit on, they're kind of they're a little, you can kind of feel the bend in them. These are supposed to be structured and manufactured so they have more stability in them. These are designed for student section standing and jumping, and they're supposed to not break, but you know, who knows? you
Speaking
know.
of break, is there a warranty to them too? Yeah, I suppose.
I'm assuming there is, I don't know off the top of my head.
I think we could probably get into the quote. Yes, I mean, these are reputable companies that
Sure.
we've worked with before, but let's see if we can find it.
Well, they last 50 years.
Probably not.
I don't think it's built anything last the way it used to, you know?
So what color?
Purple.
Purple.
Yeah, we would have to, we still have that option, whatever we choose, you can choose the color scheme. Heck, there's even ways that you can infuse a pirate head into it, you
Oh, yeah.
know, and make it look, you can put AHS into it. Obviously, that's all gonna cost more, and I didn't necessarily get that quote because
They'll be purple all the way
they'll
across.
be purple all the way across. They'll be very similar to what's in the elementary. And the other thing that I like about them is they'll all be enclosed, so if someone drops their coat or drops their keys, they don't have to have
Yeah.
a little hiding spot to get some little
That's nice.
guy or gal underneath there to go get it.
Taking away the kids' jobs there.
I'm gonna circle back to.
They usually find a lot of money under there.
Yeah, they probably do.
So looking at these bio items from a budget perspective, now I'm gonna take you to PEPL. Again, way busy here, so I'll try and focus your eyes in. The 3 items being proposed are highlighted in yellow, so that is the E-rate, the elementary doors, and the gym refinishing. Couple things that play into this, I'm showing right now just as a negative expense that anticipated category 2 E-rate funding coming back. It'll actually come in as a revenue, so this will get reworked, but you can assume $90,000 more in your balances. And then very significant here is this peach color for the facility project. From the very beginning, we have set aside this just in case beyond the just in case for the facility project. You have your contingency of 5%. We've been tracking that with change orders, doing very fine. You've got really a lot of room left in there for things that at this point are just not gonna happen. We are so close to the end. Many times this year, I've tried to get myself to just delete this line, but I'm just too conservative. I'm leaving it in here. But by July 1st, this $150,000 just needs to be wiped off. You are not gonna need it for the facility project. So those are 2 very big swings in your ending fund balance. So if I can move us down here, this just tracks all the things that are either done or have been approved. You, with these expenditures, would end PEPL this year with $152,000. I would recommend moving forward, you continue to try and land about $100,000, so you've got some room in there to take on even things we haven't thought of for next year. Remember, PEPL buys buses and does $85,000 of technology to rotate everything once every 3 years. Those are included in these numbers up above in the spreadsheet. So all that's protected, all the projects you've already done this year are in here, and these 3 approvals are in here. Then what you decide to do with fiscal year 24, because currently it would show it at 72,000, I'm telling you, and I'll just do it right now, you're not gonna need this 150, which immediately puts you at a $222,000 balance, so that you can talk with Will and your team about what else do we wanna do next year. So, to be very frank, if you like the 3 things being proposed tonight and got your questions answered financially, you should not be concerned about that.
With the $48,750. Is that assuming the $25,000 already taken out of it?
It's
or-
already in there as revenue.
Okay.
Just gonna
okay.
show you the
So
whole
that's,
expense.
but that's the expense of the project,
Mhm.
but half of it's already paid for, essentially.
Right, but if you look at the balance, that's accurate, because it's already in there.
Okay.
Okay, then just to keep this full circle, your other two projects would land in save, so we're gonna do the same general flow. I actually have the, update South Elementary classrooms highlighted here because they've been part of our ongoing conversations about what to do when. Not asking for any approval tonight, I just wanted you to see and acknowledge that we've been having that sort of internal, not really debate, but consideration. So showing you the student parking and the bleachers, again, everything approved, everything paid for. The one exception, I'm still expecting we yet by June 30th could see some talk about that field prep vehicle. I have no idea if $10,000 is accurate, but it's there. Ending at $94,000. I would call that close enough to the $100,000 mark to say you're good to move ahead with these purchases. Then projecting those classrooms and some other, sorry, it keeps doing that, touchy, me, problem. Several other projects that were in the priority list are still in here for next year, again, for you and Will and the team to talk about. Doing all of them, you would end around $100,000, so.
What were a couple of those things on 2024?
They were things that came up during our prioritization process, so we've got carpet throughout, flooring in the lunchroom, some branding in the elementary, some entrance signage, acoustic panels, and then moving even to the third year out, we've got resurfacing the elementary playground, redoing the.
Talking about bleachers there in that newer gym at one point.
That never did make the priority
Okay.
list that we used, certainly, so we're in finishing year one of that 3-year process. I would say about the end of next year, we'll probably wanna be working with you again to say what's the next round of priorities that could maybe encompass those bleachers.
Out at the complex.
No, over here,
Oh.
on the other side, we mentioned that before.
Well, that too, I was sorry thinking that one, but I would put those.
I know
in the
this gets
same.
awful crowded in here when we have games and stuff there, with just the one side, people have asked about that before.
There were many things on the whole list, if you remember that whiteboard upstairs, just we narrowed it down to, with our process, what are the top priorities? And we got quite a few of them on there.
Mhm. Question with the bleachers, and you guys might know this too, but the old ones in there, is that demo and getting rid of them, or there's no reusing those, I wouldn't guess?
Gov.org,
Huh?
government.org, look it up.
No, is that throwing, tossing them, I'm assuming?
I don't know the answer to that.
Or does that include getting rid of them?
Well, I can tell you that it includes demo. I think you're asking more like, is there value or what should we do with them?
Well, I don't know, I don't, that's an open-ended question actually on whether, if that includes getting rid of them, or if there's any value to try to salvage or use them, I would guess no, but.
I would guess no.
But their bid, I do see it now too, that you have that up demo of existing 7 and 8 rows, but does that mean that they're gonna include demo?
They've included, from what I understand, that they will take them out of the gym and get rid of them as part of that dollar amount.
Okay, so I'm gonna, again, circle you back to, there are 5 agenda items here. You should take them one at a time, but you needed to understand the whole big picture. You can continue to ask questions, but that is the big picture now.
I'll make a motion to approve the technology purchase for the E-rate Category 2 project with Riverside Technologies Incorporated at a cost of $152,305.51.
I'll second. So moved and seconded to take the proposal from Riverside Technologies on the E-rate Category 2 project. favor?
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion passes.
I'll make a motion for the elementary entrance doors.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve Liberty Doors to do the work for the elementary entrance doors. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, same sign, motion passes.
I'll move to complete the gym floor refinishing, with the floor trim and chips addressed, for $48,750.
I'll second it.
It's been moved and seconded for Stalker Sports Floor to do the floor work for the amount of $48.75 coming out of the Pebble expenditure. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Line item G, additional parking.
I'll make a motion to approve the additional student parking and dirt work.
I'll second it.
It's been moved and seconded for Haley Dirt Work to do the additional student parking. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, same sign, motion passes. Line item H.
I'll move to go with Townsend Company for the main gym bleachers at $123,670 as quoted.
I'll second it.
It's been moved and seconded for Towns End Company to do the work for the main gym bleachers for the amount of $123,670. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, same sign, motion passes. Audit services.
I can take this one. So, we're required to go out for bid, or to send out RFPs every 3 years for audit services. We've been with Nolte, Corman, and Johnson from Newton, Iowa for quite some time. And I sent out a lot of RFPs, and to be honest, it's because we've had not a lot of great service with Nolte. We've extended so audits are due June 30th. No, May 31st, sorry. They're due May 31st for the previous fiscal year. Nolte has extended ours twice now. And right now I'm on an extension as well for fiscal year 22. So it's really they're not giving us timely information. They're not easy to communicate to. And then as well as, if you look at the cost, they're more expensive than the other quote we got. So I've gotten really good recommendations or reviews on Kay Chapman, and I actually would be really, really grateful to work with her. So and this is somebody that I can call upon for advice on any kind of accounting or audit questions.
You actually put that out to several other companies too. They weren't
I think I
interested.
sent out 7. Yeah, and I got 2 that said that they just have too many that they do. Yep, and then a lot of just non-responsive. Yeah, and that's actually not uncommon. A lot of my colleagues are saying the same thing, so I was very happy to get 2.
I believe our last process, and maybe even the last 2 times, Nolte was the only bid that we got.
And Nolte they really, to be honest, they spread themselves really thin, and they had some issues with personnel the last couple of years, because so many people can perform the audit, but only one CPA can write it off, like sign off on it. So our audit might be done, but we're just waiting on that CPA. And so, like for example, I have not brought to you guys the fiscal year 22 audit because I don't have it. And so when I bring it to you in the next couple of months, it's so outdated that why are we even talking about it? It really needs to be more timely.
I've been kind of wondering about that.
Yeah.
Kind of like reading them now.
When would you start, when is like the beginning day you'd actually start working with them?
Well, I mean, I would start working with them for the fiscal year 23 audit. So yeah, as soon as I close my books in 23. So July, August probably.
So is the Chapman company pretty similar size and?
Yeah, similar size. Like I said, I've gotten really good comments about her. So Springville, Stacy Mattis works with Kay Chapman, and that recommendation means a lot to me. So But yeah, and like financially it makes sense, so. And honestly, I think it's good to get the different eyes on our books. You sometimes get complacent when you're hearing the same thing over and over again from your auditor. So I guess it's a challenge for me, so.
I'll make a motion to approve Kay Chapman, CPA PC out of Muscatine, Iowa for our audit services.
I'll second it.
It's been moved and seconded to have Kay Chapman do our audit services. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Board self-evaluation.
I wanted to take the liberty of making a recommendation to you here. You have been very busy and spending some great quality time together in discussion. A self-evaluation, meaning the board self-evaluates your work together, is probably really important right now. But you may be like meeting fatigued right now, and this would really, done well, you should take some time to do it. One thing to think about. Two, there are some conversations that could be had with your incoming superintendent, just kind of building rapport and relationships and expectations as you self-evaluate. So I am happy to kick this off as you have in the past. We'll send something to you, we'll have discussion about it in April, but also wanted to give you that opening to know that it's probably okay if you want to move this, maybe even just not until you've got another almost year with your new superintendent. There may be some things he asks you to do a little different procedurally, I don't know. So, my recommendation to you is that you do hold this for a later date, but I'm more than happy to help you with the process if you don't wanna hold it.
So what does that mean? You just want to table it?
I don't think you even have to table it, I just think you just decide that you're going to wait and talk with your new superintendent.
Okay.
Tabling it would mean that we need to bring it back next
Back
month.
now, okay. What do you guys think?
I said she's got a good point, I guess I'll probably put it off myself.
Yeah, I think that sounds good, good idea.
What do you think, Jason?
Suggest whatever you do as he thinks you formalize, so it's on record that you do intend to do one, you're not shirking the importance of it.
Well, it would be nice for him to know how his board portrays themselves. Where if we were to find areas where we think we need to improve, then he could help us improve on those. But I don't know if those type of concerns are gonna come up in the survey that we've done in the past or not. I don't know,
So the survey that we've used in the past is, it's quite lengthy, but that means thorough, right? So it's by a multitude of different sections that cover the board's responsibilities. And maybe, another way to do this is you could say we wanna complete it in May, and we want the results to be available to Mr. Dybel when he starts or the transition in June. He doesn't start till July for a discussion. It depends on what the purpose is. So the purpose you've talked about is maybe slightly different. It's information for your incoming superintendent. My recommendation was based upon conversations that you might typically want to be having amongst yourselves. You really have had to, I think, I haven't been in the room, I assume you've been doing a lot of that.
A ton of it. And that's why I say, if we did that while it's fresh, then we give the feedback because it is fresh, and then we know where, hey, out of those great conversations, this is where maybe we struggle or where we lack something. Or not, or maybe we're great at that spot, or, but.
But say in years past, how do you use it as a tool?
It's a board self-evaluation, so
Certainly, you use.
superintendent has their own evaluation process. So I would use it as a tool to encourage learning or conversation about different things for the board. So I don't disagree even in that vein with what Jason's saying. That would give Will an opportunity to know more about you.
You think we should do that right now?
I think we should.
Maybe just hold the results though and not
That's fine.
workshop them. or
And that's fine, but just the same evaluation that we used last year, we won't have to go get crazy, just the same format, even maybe the same evaluation, just redo it. Now that because we've spent a lot of time together, in the last 2 months?
We've tried some different things the last 2 years that included even bringing in John Spear from Grantwood. I would suggest to get the results you're after, we return to the most recent, just long survey that we had used prior to that.
I mean, it's not that big deal to fill out.
No.
I don't think. You know,
You think it'd be pretty valuable to Mr. Dibble to have that information as a kind of a reflection of what the board sees, I guess?
I certainly don't think it would hurt. I mean, for example, something you could tell him, your scores will probably be least favorable in legislative advocacy. You know that, you own that, but does he know that about you?
right.
Yeah, I'd say move forward with
Yeah,
that.
there's no harm, there's no harm in it.
Okay, so if you could find a way to formalize without getting too wordy, or I can help you, or you can help them with a motion. We just wanna be on record that this is your plan. I hear you saying you wanna complete the, survey using the board standards, soon. So I'll just say maybe you're thinking in March. We'll give you a deadline, but that's not important for the motion. And that the results will be made available to Mr. Dibble for discussion with the board. Sound about what
Sounds
you're
perfect.
thinking? Let's give her a minute and see what she got.
Oh, okay. I actually wrote down what Danny said, so the board wishes to proceed with the self-evaluation process using the survey on board standards, to be done in March and results shared with Mr. Dibble for review.
It's okay to use the so moved as presented. If you
So
want.
moved.
I'll second it.
It's been moved and seconded to move forward with the board self-evaluation as Harley presented. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Confirm the date and time of the next meeting for April 7th, 6 p.m.
17th.
What did I say, 7th?
Yep.
I'm sorry, April 17th. Did we take a motion on that?
No, that's just an announcement.
All right, how about adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second it.
Been moved and seconded to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
That was quick.
All opposed, same sign.
I've got a lot more stuff to do down here.